In this video, we're going to discuss the settings modal and all the different configurations that you can, manipulate within settings. So let's go ahead and select settings. So to start, we have the general page. So we can select our theme. So in this case, I'm currently in dark mode. We can make the system light mode, or we can make it system. So based on the, time of day, the system will determine what setting you're in. I'll select dark mode for now. We can select all of these custom controls, so auto connect on drop, and what this looks like for reference is if I drop an agent block, it'll auto connect, but if I go ahead and disable this, now if I drag an agent block, it will not auto connect here. So there's all kinds of other, different configurations. So snap to grid for one, we can select this as, a slider. So snap to grid. What this looks like is, let's say we drag a block onto the canvas and we start to move it. As you can see, it is going to snap to the grid in that way to have nice and neat movements, versus if I turn this off, if I turn it off, as we can see here, the agent moves nice and smooth. Additionally, we have, run error notifications, so we can have this as on. So every time we execute a workflow, we'll see the error in the bottom left corner, or in the bottom right corner, excuse me. We can turn on telemetry, and we can select super admin mode as well. In my case, I will be a super admin. So template profile is the next setting in your account. So as you can see here, if you were to publish templates, you can add all of your information here. So every time you see, you publish a template, everyone can kind of see this information. Moving down the line, we have our tools. So here is where you can manage all of the OAuth integrations. So many different blocks on the canvas require authentication via authentication, which is essentially a way to manage credentials with that third-party integration. So as you can see here, I have all of my Google credentials connected. There's our Microsoft credentials. We have GitHub, Twitter, Confluence, the list goes on. So here's a way to kind of manage all those credentials and either connect or disconnect them accordingly. Now, moving on, here is where you can create custom tools. So a custom tool is pretty unique in that if there is some sort of a tool that you wish an agent had access to, for example, you can actually create that custom tool here by defining a JSON schema, so how that tool will look. So for example here, as you can see in this filler JSON schema, we can define a type function, we can give it a name, a description, parameters it takes in, and then select set required fields as well. And in that tool, we can write some custom code. So for example, if you had some sort of a custom API that you wanted to write schema and code for, you can go ahead and do that here in the tool. And so then, very simply, if we wanted to use this custom tool, we can use that tool in an agent. So we can add a tool, and we'll be able to see our custom tools here. We can actually create a custom tool directly from the agent, so it's that same modal that we were just looking at in the settings. And so that's how you would be able to create a custom tool and then add it to the agent. So moving on, so MCPs. This will be a separate video just so I can show you all of the cool intricacies of MCPs. But essentially how it works is SIM supports HTTP MCPs. So what you can do is you can add a new server, enter the server name as well as the server URL. You'll select add server, and then all of those available tools will pop up. So in this example, I configured the EXA MCP server. I received two tools from that server, which is web search and get code context. So I can look into the details of this specific server. I can see the URL, and then I can see the descriptions of the tools that I have access to. Now, moving on, we have subscription. So if you wanted to upgrade your plan, you can go ahead and do that by looking at all of the different subscription models here. So we have Pro, Team, and Enterprise. So moving down, if you have a team that works in your workspace, you can go ahead and select all of your team members, invite those team members, and kind of manage the team members here. I am currently on an individual plan, so I don't have a team, but if I were to have a team, this is the place where you can manage all of those members. Now, moving down the list, we have all of our environment variables. So your environment variables will fall into one of two categories, either personal environment variables or workspace environment variables. So your personal environment variables are only accessible to you. So even if you've shared the workspace with multiple team members, these personal environment variables will only be accessible to you. And if somebody else tries to run a workflow, for example, with a personal environment variable of yours, they will not be able to. Now, to circumvent that, you can actually make these variables workspace scoped. So very simply, you would select this, workspace icon here, and you can make it workspace scoped in one click. And then you can go ahead and save the environment variables. If you wanted to add a new one, you can click add, and then you'll be able to add the new environment variable here at the bottom. So this is a really easy way and very, controlled way to manage all of your different keys that you may have within a workflow. Now moving on, here are the API keys. So the API keys are used to deploy a workflow with and then call that workflow. So for example, I have tons of different API keys. So when you deploy that workflow, just to show you what this looks like, you can go into API. You can see all of the different ways to run the workflow. So for example, here are all the ways to run the workflow as a curl. And you'll notice that it requires an API key. Now, when you create an API key, any of these keys are able to execute that workflow with. So even if you have, personal keys or workspace keys, so long as you have that key accessible somewhere and you use it to call the workflow with, this will properly authenticate the workflow execution. Additionally, we have bring your own key. So if you wanted to bring your own keys to run the models with, you can go ahead and do that here. We have the Copilot keys. So for example, if you're running SIM locally, you can actually use the Copilot locally as well. And so the purpose of this is to, grab a key from the SIM cloud and then use that Copilot key in your locally running version of SIM to enable the Copilot itself. So all you would do here is you can create a key. We'll just name it dev. We'll create the key. And now let's say I'm hosting SIM locally and I want to use this key. I can go ahead and copy the key and paste it into my .env file. And so now I can have access to the Copilot. And then finally, here is where you can store some files in your workspace. So let's say you had, a number of files that you were, using in a workflow, for example. You can store files safe and secure on the SIM platform in our files directory here. So you can upload files, store them here, and then you can kind of give the workflow access to those files. So what this could look like is, for example, if you wanted to use Mistral parse, you can go ahead and drag a Mistral block on. You can select upload PDF document. You can upload a new file, or if you already have files that exist within your workspace, you can select one of those existing uploaded files. So this makes it super easy to kind of manage all of your files in one place. And you have up to 5 gigabytes of memory, so this is quite a lot of files. All right, thank you so much.